This is Gabriel through Ted again, and we're going to try to do 7 videos to hit number 7. And Gabriel, our angel, did blue angels in the colors of, well, some of Ted's royal colors, but I also use, of royal blue and yellow. And Ted's colors are white, yellow, like a blue, or really a royal blue, and red, primarily red, for sacrifice, for valor, for courage, for bravery. And Gabriel's going to say, and honor. I think Ted does have honor. I'm going to agree. Ted has enough honor for Gabriel to say, and honor. And I did Blue Angels. This is Gabriel. I did Thunderbirds. This is Gabriel. You know, the Navy Blue Angels and the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. Where Ted went to Thunderbird Academy. We used to be a U.S. Air Force base and learned how to fly there. Okay, became a private pilot, and was thinking of either joining the U.S. Air Force or the U.S. Navy and trying to get into fighter. Well, Ted wanted to be a fighter jock and fly fighter jets. Okay, that's what Ted really wanted to do. And then Ted was talking and trying to get into medicine or something, or dentistry, something, medical, and where he can make money, much money. So they always seem to be really greedy there, and they all want to be doctors, and if they can't be doctors, they don't quite make the grade there. They try to be a dentist or something like this to make tons of money, and where many of them do medical fraud and dental fraud. Ted has a mouthful of cavities where he was drilled, built, and filled where it was not even necessary. His Seventh-day Adventist dentist was committing enormous amounts of dental fraud, and many of them create enormous amounts of medical fraud, do surgeries and different medical treatments that are not even necessary, and put them in hospitals and medical centers that are not even necessary, and do different things, you see. And Seventh-day Adventist Church, you're making a huge mistake with Ted. You are making such a huge mistake. You can't believe it, because Ted is 100% God. He is a coming. Jesus was a false Christ. Ellen G. White was not much of a true prophetess. She was marginally true. We got through a little bit with Ellen G. White. We got through in things like Great Controversy, and we inspired the name of the church to call it Seventh-day Adventist Church, to tell you the advent of really God. The one living God, 100% God, would be by the 7th day. What was at Y2K, where there was 6,000 years, 6 millennial days, started 7th day. 7th day Advent started at Y2K, or 6,000 years. And then she even wrote 6,000 years, including in Great Controversy. She wrote about the one living God. She wrote about these things that were going to desolate all of earth. And guess what? She called them great slaughtering weapons. She called them weapons. Ellen G. White wrote in Great Controversy even, these were weapons. Guess what? This is Gabriel. These were about nukes. These were about nuclear weapons, what they started out calling atomic bomb and atomic weapons. These are nuclear weapons. These are nukes. This is the fire. This is glory. These are clouds of glory. This is the glory of God. These are clouds. This is lightning, thunder. These are the earthquakes. These are the slaughtering weapons, or what Ellen G. White talked about, including she even wrote about their eye sockets, their eyes would melt out of their eye sockets, and she got a big graphic about nukes. Nukes! What happens when you get hit with a nuke direct enough? Nukes! This is what she wrote about. She had in there 6,000 years. It subtly tells you time of coming. The name of the Seventh-day Adventist Church tells you. Seventh-day Adventist Church. Advent would happen by 7th day. What else? Well, she wrote about the one living God. She subtly was trying to set some records straight there. A few other things, but she wasn't much of a true prophetess. She was maybe a lowercase true prophetess. We tried to get through here and there. Ted, when God tried to get through, and angels, and it was difficult. In fact, many things she rejected, and she wouldn't even write, or she wrote and then she threw out or burned, threw in the fire, and decided this has to be from Satan. This has to be from a liar. These have to be lies. This can't be even true, because she was, Seventh-day Adventist Church was spun off from Sunday keeping, Sunday keeping Protestants. What was spun off from Roman Catholic Church. Okay. Seventh-day Adventist, you're indirectly spun off from Roman Catholic Church, and you're using Bibles what are nearly Roman Catholic Bibles, even though they call them Protestant Bibles. They're nearly Roman Catholic. You take a Roman Catholic Bible and you take a Protestant Bible, and they're nearly the same thing. It's quite similar. And that's what you're using, Seventh-day Adventists, are Roman Catholic Bibles. They're not holy in the slightest. In fact, the entire New Testament is false. Jesus was a false Christ, so if Ted cannot be Antichrist, is not Antichrist. New Testament is false. These things are nearly entirely false. These things are dragging many down to your eternal death. You're hanging on to them and protecting them and defending them. And we're not going to say bless your hearts for this. These are definitely not all inspired. They're not infallible. They're not perfect. And you're hanging on to them off of the sailboat where it's not even a sailing ship or a sailing fleet. And you're sinking in floodwaters, humans of earth. Many of you are sinking. Many of these churches and church leaders and clergy and in churches what are working for these churches, have careers in these churches, are leaders, are dragging you down in floodwaters to your eternal death. These are dragging you down in floodwaters to your eternal death minimum, to putting something down to hell to Hades, or something down to hell to something lower. Ignorance of this is no legal defense. Many of you are getting minimum eternal death but thought you were going to be saved, including the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Many of you get eternal death. These are false. The entire New Testament is false, with a few historical facts in there. What or nothing about miracles of Jesus. The miracles of Jesus never happened, how documented or how written. These are false. It was a religious fraud done by religious fraud committers in, quote, all Greek and some Aramaic by, quote, unquote, Hebrews. No, never would have happened, and it didn't happen. It was a religious fraud. The Old Testament, or what's in the Old Testament, is practically, even what was accurate, is practically obsolete. It's only about 10% accurate what the scriptures were, what were had even before times of Jesus. Only we say about 10% accurate. These tend to become obsolete, too. There's a thing of obsolescence. After, even 100 or 200 years, they tend to be obsolete or start to look and feel obsolete. After 1,000 years or a couple thousand years or 3,000 years, they definitely tend to have obsolescence. These are not true, and they're definitely not holy. They're not true enough, and they're definitely not holy. Forget the entire New Testament. It is entirely false. Forget nearly the entire Old Testament. It is either... let's just say nearly 90% false currently, including because of obsolescence and different things. Therefore, when Ted threw these, some practically overreacted or probably wanted to go find Ted and kill Ted, and say, we're going to get you, Ted, because you're throwing Bibles around that are holy. These are not holy. I'll just set them over here on the bed. This is Gabriel controlling Ted. We're not going to start throwing Bibles or, those things around. Those are not really even Bibles. They're not true. Those are books that are leading minimum to your eternal death, to getting put down to something down to hell to something lower physically, or in a dream state. He's going to do dream states, and he's going to do other things. You can be in the huge brain of a huge turtle, and in a dream state with many people in there, many people in this huge brain under the shell of a huge turtle. The turtle has a little brain controlling, the eating and the survival and different things, or it's in the huge brain, and it's a huge brain under the shell, a huge brain. Is what Ted's also creating in other things for, maximum up to maximum down. He's creating maximum up to maximum down, or maximum down to maximum up.